Well, it didn't take too long until Zoh Shia became our newest target dummy. We've already seen sub 5-minute speedruns, and it's not even been a week since Title Update 1 came out. So here are the new weapon rankings. Quite a bit has changed around, and there are some solid lessons to learn from speedrunners as well, such as hitting the wing arms enough times can trigger really good bursts of damage. Paralyzed gets replaced by Dragon for better hitbox reach, but there are some high IQ plays in here too to check out. As always, you will find the links down below to all of the speedruns, and again, huge shout out to all of those who made these runs possible. Now, starting up at number 14, dead last, it's Hunting Horn at 7 minutes and 36 seconds. To the surprise of nobody, maybe they should probably buff Hunting Horn a little bit. It seems that the Mizutsune Hunting Horn is pretty good for the buffing routine before the fight, but then it turns back to the Arcveld Hunting Horn, obviously, for the damage. Echo Bubble seems to be really solid over here against Zoh Shia. I also know that the patch fixed some of the double input issues, so if you're a Hunting Horn player, do let me know down below in the comments if this Title Update 1 change did make a difference for you. In terms of the build, it still uses the 4-piece Gormagala set with the Zoh Shia headpiece, which pretty much gives it all the stats that it needs, as well as the two other weapons we mentioned before. At number 13, very big surprise, it's Lance at 7 minutes and 31 seconds, though I think a better time can be achieved. I really think that Lance is a very comfortable weapon after trying it a little bit more, and especially so you have lots of payback thrust over here you can do. So easy to pull off, perfect blocks if you pay attention to the attacks, and in this case, this speedrunner had some really great positioning tricks, making great use of the Lance moveset while turned at the camera to reposition in key moments. Also great at using advancing jump at one point to quickly do this sort of double jump that I haven't seen anybody performing before, right before the fire breath mechanic. So all in all, I think that this speedrunner can probably pull off an even better run. A lot more mobility in this compared to most of the Arcveld fights, as you will see in some of the other runs as well. Plus, given the large body of Zoh Shia, dash attacks are actually very good against it as well. No mention of any builds as of yet, but I'm pretty sure they use the 4-piece Gormagala and possibly one of the Zoh Shia armors, as that seems to be very common in some of these speedrunning builds. Now at number 12, we have the Hammer with 6 minutes and 58 seconds. Do keep in mind, however, that at the end of May, hammers are supposed to get buffed, so we're likely going to see much better runs than this. It surprisingly works really great against Zoh Shia because of the prolonged stun windows, favoring the hammer here quite a bit. So you're going to be able to pull off a full-on Big Bang with a mighty charge into spinning bludgeon routine every now and then. So you can pretty much unleash all of that damage. Hopefully, some of this will get buffed in the future as well. You can also stun the boss 3 times in a row if you focus on the head and then each of the wing arms. So hitting one of them as the boss is down, if you then couple it just as the boss is about to raise, you can pretty much pull it back into a stun phase right away and then move on to the other wing arm. Also, upswing doing solid work here against the head to further stun it. Now this pretty much uses the old meta from, as far as I can tell, 2 pieces Fulgur with the Gore and Arcveld chest in this case. And also Dragon, Artian Hammer, as like I said before, paralysis is not really great here because it just makes the boss stand still, so then you cannot reach its wing arms, but pretty respectable time for the hammer nonetheless. Moving on to number 11, we have the Switchaxe. Very interesting that it's only at number 11 with an almost 6 minutes and 50 seconds, but strategy-wise it hasn't really changed much. Even against Zoh Shia, you still want to spam full release slash, as that's your strongest move, and bursts of damage like these are great against Zoh Shia at knocking it down, but also taking out layers of armor off it. I think I even saw a really cool timed offset attack at some point, so really appreciate those when I see them in speedruns, even though technically you're kinda wasting time unless you have proper positioning. But once again, focusing on those wing arms, dealing damage, causing the burst to appear, and eventually repositioning. I think that at some point they also almost get one-shotted by the boss, so that's something to keep in mind because the timer could have been much better. But build-wise, again, 4-piece Gormagala set, which is also going with the Zoh Shia chest again and the Counter Charm 3, so taking advantage of Counter Strike as well. A Dragon Elemental Artian Switchaxe with 2 sharpness reinforcements this time around, since obviously the longer fight needs you to not waste time doing a lot of sharpening and whatnot. But then at number 10, we have the dual blades at 6 minutes and 28 seconds. For some reason, dual blades always seems to be at number 10, but then a few days later, you see it jumping to like spot number 4. But basically, this is dash dancing combo working great against the boss. Also, lots of opportunities for demon dodge to keep the damage buffs going. And one thing to note about this is that dealing enough damage, like I said previously, to the wing arms causes another burst of extra damage to trigger if you reach a certain amount of threshold over there. And I think that this resets every phase, so in total you can squeeze in a few thousand extra damage if you do it enough. You're going to see some pop-up over there of almost 1,000 damage. That is the reason why. That is why you're going to see a lot of these speedrunners focusing on the wings so much. The build, yet again, for set Gormagala with the Zoh Shia chest piece and the chain arm in this case. So this build is going for a level 5 burst as well for the extra bonus damage, including 2 elemental damage. Now at number 9, we have the light bowgun, 5 minutes 52. Burst step is absolutely insane against Zoh Shia, back and forth, dodge fire, focusing on the weak areas. The onslaught of burst damage here against the boss is, I would say, disgustingly good. But it also helps to reposition on the fly against some of the crystal attacks. So overall, really solid positioning game here too. In terms of the build, it still seems to use the Ray Dao light bowgun with the pierce ammo and the rapid fire mod most likely. Also 4 set Gormagala, 1 Zoh Shia chest and the challenger arm. But moving on to number 8, we have the Greatsword at 5 minutes and 41 seconds. This run starts with a nice full TCS combo, and then they use R1 as a final hit, which actually is enough to trigger a wound, which automatically connects the focus strike to trigger and pretty much send the boss almost into a stun phase. So as far as I'm able to tell, it was literally the focus strike attack causing the wound in the first place to appear and then transitioning to the whole like slash animation. Now this whole fight was just perfect positioning, anticipating where the boss head would land during the stun phase to immediately land TCSs, even going as far as using the focus strike final hit to land on the head itself, which is really high IQ over there. A tackle when in need of hyper armor and whatnot, you know the gist of it. 2 tricks over here being used is mounted attack so that it gets another stun phase against the boss, and also using the large crystal field when it transitions to one of its later phases to cause all of those explosions around it. That's something you should take advantage of all the time. So yeah, in this case, it's once again using the 2 set Folger with 2 set Gore and the Zoh Shia chest, going for Artian weapon and another earplugs. 3 setup over here just for the overall comfort. But moving on to number 7, we have the Charge Blade at 5 minutes, 40 seconds. Really solid work here, again using the roars to go straight to the Savageaxe mode, and also a dodge over there on the second one to completely avoid it. But this is one of the first runs we see with a very interesting strategy that more speedrunners are using more and more, and that is to basically go back to the camp and switch things around mid-fight, right before phase 2 triggers. So in this case, it starts with Corrupted Mantle at the start, letting you deal that extra damage, but then once it expires, before phase 2 fully triggers, they travel back to the camp and pretty much switch to the Rocksteady Mantle. So this is something that they can use later down the line to not get interrupted. They still get the damage, but it's like 60% damage reduction as well. So overall, you don't get interrupted and squeeze in as much Savageaxe as possible. Also another mounted routine to get another stun phase. Really great overall. Build is Zoh Shia helmet, 4 set Gormagala plus the challenger charm. You will see, like I said, a lot of these builds using it. But moving on to number 6, again 1 second quicker, we have the sword and the shield. I'm glad that finally we get to see more than the YYBB spam. Charged chop also gets used here a lot. It seems to do great work in terms of damage against some of the weak parts from Zoh Shia. Also great use of advancing slash and the slide slash over here for repositioning without, I believe, triggering any of the stamina, which would otherwise remove temporarily that maximum might buff. I will say I fully take back what I said about SNS before. I listened to the advice that you guys gave me and pretty much mained SNS and the lens since title update 1 dropped, and I'm not gonna lie, it really felt very comfy with both of them. Another run, by the way, that goes back to the camp during phase 2 even does a build switch, actually a full-on build switch, not just going for the Rocksteady or the Corrupted Mantle. Build-wise, surprise, surprise to nobody, another 4-set Gormagala with Zoh Shia chest piece and the Challenger Charm, using the old Artian with Dragon Elemental Weapon. But moving on to number 5, we have the Gunlance, 5 minutes and 27 seconds. No surprise here because the Gunlance was great in the previous runs against Arcveld. Wormstake Full Blast, Multi-Wormstake Full Blast over here are a menace. And like we saw in the previous ranking, Wyvern Fire here is also going to be really good against this large body. Plus it charges faster after all of those combos. I'm occasionally shelling for mobility, and that final blow over there was just priceless as the boss was about to unleash a devastating attack. Pretty much, I believe, the same build as before, except it switches some Zoh Shia items around. So 2-set Ebony Head and Arms, Chest and Waist, Zoh Shia plus the Udra Legs, Rocksteady Mantle, and also the Lawful Boars in this case for the damage. It's going to continue to be the top tier pick for Gunlances in Title Update 1 as well. But then at rank 4, we have the Longsword, and this speedrunner actually broke 2 records with the Longsword today. Previously, it was a bit over 5 minutes. Now, it's below 5 minutes, so a really good timer over here. It even has enough time at the start to both place down a small barrel, ambush the target, and then do an EI Spirit Slash just in time. So now they only need another ISS against the Roar to go straight to red gauge. Again, spamming only Crimson Slash 1 with the animation skip trick that pretty much gives him a lot of extra damage, much quicker animation, and also repositioning. And also gotta love the perfectly timed focus strike on the wound appearing on the wing arm so that it triggers the next stun phase right as the boss was about to lift itself up once again, and that you're going to see quite a lot in this fight. Also, I've got to say that this was the chattiest of the runs I've seen so far. Pretty much facing over there, phase 2, and then using those attacks for a foresight slash so that it upgrades the gauge over there and doesn't miss a beat. So like I said, fully staying over there like a real chat it is. In this case, the build uses Dragon Artian Longsword with the Zoh Shia helmet and chest, Arcveld arms, and the Gormagala waist and the legs. You can check out the video as well for the full build. At number 3, and going from this point on, we're going to have some very interesting selections here. At the 3rd spot, we have the bow. So don't get fooled by the Dragon Piercer nerf. Bow is still in a very great spot. The dash dancing combo is your highest DPS, especially now that both Power Shot and Power Volley got buffed both directly or indirectly, because we also know that the special ammo also got a buff in there as well when using some of these abilities. Also squeezing in some extra arc shots, adding some nice bonus damage. Arc shot is great at restoring the trick arrow gauge as well. They also help with some stun damage build-up. They also lodge tracer ammo into the target, or in this case tracer arrows, to basically have them detonate even with the focus strike if you want to. Again, making good use of some of the extra environmental damage. Why not? It's free. We have that 3rd phase large crystal field we can easily detonate with the dragon, or the lightning pods, might as well just use it. As far as the build goes, it's using Artian bow with fire affinity, as that's the only one of the 2 I believe that comes with the close range ammo. Also Zoh Shia head, Arcveld chest, Gormagala arms and waist, and Udra legs, plus the Exploiter's charm, which gives it all of these bonuses. But moving on to the 2nd spot, we have the heavy Bowgun at 4 minutes and 49 seconds, mainly using flame ammo with a fire Artian Bowgun using ignition mode upgrade. Previously, most of the metas were using piercing ammo, but obviously since Zoh Shia has fire weakness, it's better against it. Now this just shows you once again that this type of ammo and this type of like super high burst of damage is very strong against the boss like this, pretty much wrecking all of the armor on it and triggering those stun phases as well. Also, I'm pretty sure that this build uses earplugs 3 for extra comfort, so it just shoots continuously without any stop. This is the build, by the way, continuing to use the Griffin with the Blaze Bandolier, Critical, and the True Shot Jewel. Also, Gore helmet and legs, Fulgur chest and arms, and the Shuwu waist, plus a Great Charm, which is going to give you a ton of bonuses. It's pretty much using the old meta, I believe, but still going to be really useful. You can do a ton of dodges before maximum might will even go down with the new changes added with Title Update 1. And finally, to the 1st spot, obviously the only one left, is the Insect Glaive, very far ahead of everybody else at 4 minutes and 19 seconds. I would not wonder if this reaches sub 4 minutes really soon. Now, Rising Spiral Slash is going to be insanely good against a large hitbox boss like Zoh Shia, so that's what you're going to see spammed a lot over here. But I will say, really loving how well timed that is, just as the boss is about to lift its body so that it constantly and consistently hits it through and through. I'm also seeing more air combos over here, strong descending slash once again during the ground phases, but I'm just glad to see more aerial combat for the insect glaive, given how it was pretty much missing for the majority of the time since Monster Hunter Wilds even launched. So in this case, we have the Argveld chest with everything else for Set Gormagala, Dragon Elemental Artian Insect Glaive with attack boost and 1 sharpness reinforcement. And this is pretty much it in terms of the ranking. Some big surprises over there and some really high IQ moves as well. Definitely some of them I'm gonna implement myself, so check them out, see how speedrunners play, and make your runs even better. But this is pretty much it. Thanks much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.